As a student activist here at TUT, what is your view on the state of student activism in all our universities and colleges in South Africa?
Well, of course, one thing I can tell you is that student activism, as we know it, in all institutions of higher learning, it has plummeted. It has been reduced to nothing because that is precisely because of interference. It can be interference from other bodies, perhaps the province and so forth. If they don't agree with a particular person in that particular branch, they will disband the entire branch and then they will replace it with a PTT and so forth. And those data are disbanded. They lose interest, then they end up doing other things. And it could also be the issue of managers within universities. When they are fighting each other, they usually use student activism, they usually use student structures. In fact, to garner support from student structures so that they can win a particular battles. I can tell you that...
in essence, would it be wrong for someone to say there is no more student activism in our universities and colleges?
No, yes, there is no more student activism. In fact, that person will be making a very good analysis. And the capturing of student formation institutions of higher learning has resulted in SRC structure being useless. It is useless not because the structure itself has become obsolete. It is useless because of the people occupying that particular structure. They are no longer there to serve the interests of students. They are there to serve their own devilish ends. They are there to serve interest of their masters other than those who elected them. So it becomes a very difficult position for...
Who do you refer to when you speak of masters?
Masters can be any manager within a particular institution. It can be an HOD, it can be a director, it can be the vice chancellor. It also could be union leaders. Because remember that in all institutions of higher learning, you find that there are unions. And those unions are fighting amongst each other. So they sometimes tend to include student activists. They sometimes tend to use student structures in their battles because they know that alone they cannot win those battles. Right. They know that if student activists or a particular structure closes down the campus, the vice chancellor will be forced to agree with whatever decision that they want.
Yeah. So in this case, how do we fix what is now a sort of a problem that seems to be unsolvable?
We must...
Because when student activists are not active and doing what they should be doing, which is protecting the interest of students, then that's where corruption comes in, and then you start to see these outside forces coming into universities and taking over and disrupting the education, the learning and progressing of students. So what is to be done to correct this?
We must go back to the basics. The basics means that all student formations, I think they must induct their deployees. They must induct branch leaders and so forth. They must show them the principles of any student movement, to say that they are not here to serve any other management other than students, those who elected them. And also, I think some of the benefits in terms of SRC structure must be taken away from SRC, because those benefits are the ones that are making SRC to behave in that manner, to think about man at all costs, other than advocating for the interest of students. So I also want a proposal to say that all student structures must establish their own document. I mean, you'll understand in the ANC they have this document called the through the eye of the needle. It's actually described what kind of a leadership is allowed to be elected within the ANC and its structures and so forth. It's just that the ANC, it doesn't implement that thing. That's why you find any Kampuku can rise in a position of responsibilities.
That's where the problem is. I think even with student activism, the problem is with the legislation and the driver, the laws guiding SRCs and student leaders. They are there, but then the implementation is where the problem is. So do you think even if these organizations of student councils do get a mandate in form of writing in terms of law, how do we enforce or make sure that they do what they promise to do in those documents?
Student of any university are the main stakeholders. If student can be able to force the university to actually change some of the decisions that they've made in relation to student, then it wouldn't be difficult for students to force the management to implement some of the rules or the policies, because the management of all universities, they thrive through ignorance. They know that nowadays student activists, they don't read. They don't even know the policies of the universities. Hence, they are able to mislead us to quote things that do not exist. So if students can familiarize themselves with the policies and the statutes of the universities and try to make sure that they enforce the management to make sure that those rules are implemented and so forth, I think that will be the correct way.
I think you're right, man. The regulations and rules of the university actually mostly they do protect the students, but then because we don't know what is written in those documents, we don't study or go through those documents, then we feel vulnerable and feel abused by the system. Whereas, sometimes we have to learn to stand up for ourselves and sort of say that, look, you don't have a right to say that. You don't have a right to say I can't do this, I can't do that, because the regulation actually says I can. But then we're not able to do that because we haven't familiarized ourselves with the documents. So yourself, you are a student leader yourself.
True.
What are you doing to advance students' rights and fight for them, just to protect students from the abuse of the educational system in South Africa?
No, I think the first thing that must be done is to conscientize the students, because you'll understand that our students are unconscious. Some of them, they don't even take student activists or student activism serious. They don't take student formation serious. So what I usually do, I try to conscientize them through writing, because writing is an art. It's an art that all of us should be mastering. Some of them, we try to engage them through strikes and protests, because protest must not only be about fighting the management, whereby you want to force management to give equal allowance or meal allowance to students. At some point, protests are also meant to conscientize our people to raise their level of awareness in relation to something. Therefore, you can just protest to say that we are going to submit a memorandum, a peaceful protest, not even to shut down the campus. You understand? Just a peaceful protest, so that you can make students aware of the brutality of the system of higher education itself. So that's what we are trying to do. You know that as a NFF member, the nature and character of the organization itself demands that we are a protest movement. You understand? We use protests to actually shake the very same system that is oppressing students in institutions of higher learning.
Yeah, because otherwise they don't listen. It's sort of a necessity for us to go out there and vent things. That's how they hear us. That's the only way they can hear us. So I definitely agree with you. But thank you very much for sharing your views and thoughts with us. Thank you.
No, thank you.